Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani, and today's talk is going to be on fruit. Is fruit bad for you? That is the question. And again, there is fructose or fruit sugar all over the place in all processed, refined foods in the form of high fructose corn syrup or even things that may sound healthier like agave. And again, fructose is one of these sugars that does not have a high glycemic index, meaning it doesn't go into our bloodstream super fast. So something that has a high glycemic index, it goes into our bloodstream fast. That's a high glycemic index. So glucose has a high glycemic index of 100, while table sugar has like 68 or 70 or so, and then fructose has a glycemic index of 15 to 20. People think, oh, well, it's got a low glycemic index. If we're following a glycemic index diet, this is fine. This is no problem because it's going in nice and slow, nice and time released. Well, the problem is fructose is metabolized much differently than other sugars. And even people that may have insulin resistance or on the starting point of metabolic syndrome, that fructose gets metabolized differently. It primarily goes to the liver. And we're going to talk about the physiology and the biochemistry behind that. And even things like fruit may be bad for you. So depending on who you are, fruit may be bad for you. So first off, normal fructose consumption over the last 1,000 years has been 16 to 24 grams of fructose per day. Forgot a little L there. So normal fructose consumption is 16 to 24 grams per day. Now today, that's 80 grams per day. So you can see how we evolved much less. And again, in this form here, this is primarily in fruit form, whole food form, with maybe a little bit of honey. So whole food fruit is far different. Even if we're consuming at the high end 24, when we consume real fruit, there's something in there called pectin or various soluble fibers that slow down the sugar and it binds the fructose. So what that means is fructose can glycate, it sugar coats proteins. It can coat these proteins and cause glycation, right? Glycation, nothing more than sugar coating. You can think of glycation as like, if you ever have creme brulee at a restaurant and then you take out the blowtorch to kind of burn it up and to create that nice coating on the creme brulee, that's glycation. That's what's happening in your arteries when we're coating all these proteins with sugar. It creates these advanced glycation end products, ages for abbreviation, and it literally ages you. That glycation is a magnet for free radicals. Free radicals come in and they chip off pieces of the DNA and create more damage and create accelerated aging, and it creates problems with cross-linking of the proteins, which then cause wrinkles, aging, skin issues. It causes cells to stick together, which increases chance for cardiovascular conditions, stroke, the whole 9 yards. That's why fructose and glycation is really bad. So again, we don't quite get the same effect when we're eating whole foods because we do have the fiber there blunting it. And again, today we're consuming lots of free fructose, meaning it's not bound to fiber. We're going to see that primarily in high fructose corn syrup, HFCS. And there's wide variation today in the amount of fructose that's in high fructose corn syrup. So anywhere between 42 to 90% of the variations in fructose you'll see from various sources. And they're even changing the names of fructose. I think one of the newer names was isolated fructose, something like that. So they're changing the names so you're not going to see high fructose on the label. Even healthier sources that you may think like agave, right? Well, that comes from a cactus. That's not bad. It's actually 90% fructose. So stay far away from agave. Not good for you. So again, what is fructose? Again, it's the primary sugar in fruit. Now we have glucose and fructose, primarily what compose table sugar. So table sugar is sucrose. It's about half and half glucose and fructose. And then we've modified it in high fructose corn syrup. Typically it's 55 fructose, 45 glucose, but we're seeing it go higher and higher up the map and it's becoming more varied. So you can see fructose consumption is going up. What is it? Where is it coming from? And again, what's different about fructose is this. Let's break down the physiology in this chalk talk and make a little more sense of it. So we have our liver right here. Okay, this is our liver. And so we have our little fructose molecules out here. Just like so. So fructose primarily gets metabolized by the liver, where glucose may go primarily to the skeletal muscle for fuel, but we only have about 60 grams of space in the liver. So this fructose is going to go into the liver, okay? It's either going to get converted as glycogen. It'll be converted as glycogen, and we only can hold about 60 grams of glycogen. So once we hit this 60 capacity here, the rest of it now gets converted to fat. And over time, that fat one is going to start going outside of the bloodstream. So just to make sure we know the different F's, fat is going to be, FA is going to be fatty acids, while the F above here is fructose. So you can see this liver becomes fatty. The major cause of fatty liver is from extra sugar or fructose. They have a term called NASH, non-alcoholic steatotic hepatitis, meaning the liver is literally becoming inflamed and swollen primarily because of the sugar that's now converting into the fat. So it's the fructose converting into the fat. So we have the fructose coming in here. It's converting to their 60 grams of glycogen. Glycogen is just nothing more than storage form of glucose. Once that 60 grams is met, the rest now gets converted into fatty acids, typically palmitic acid. It then goes out into the bloodstream. And a lot of those fatty acids, guess what? They're small. They're small density. They're small density particle size. They're very small. So we have typically large density and small density. And your small density are going to be your pattern B LDL. So we see decrease in particle size. So we see decrease in the particle size. Which is bad because these particles are so small, they can fit into the little endothelial fissures in the bloodstream. So we have our bloodstream like so, and what happens is this, in our bloodstream we may have these little small little cracks or fissures, and that fatty acids, because they're so small and dense, they come in there and they create a foam cell, which is inflammation in that arterial, and can create inflammation and create a blockage and create decreased blood flow. So decreased particle size. The next thing it's going to do, it's going to create insulin resistance. And because the liver, one of the major roles it has is stabilizing blood sugar in the body, if we create insulin resistance at the site of the liver, that means the body has to pump out more insulin for the liver to work. So essentially, if the liver becomes insulin resistant, that means systemically the body has to make more insulin. More insulin creates more fat with the smaller particle size, more triglycerides, and if we have a skew in our bad cholesterol, the good cholesterol, lots of small particle size cholesterol and lots of triglycerides, that's going to drive inflammation. Plus we're sugar coating a lot of our proteins, we're glycating our proteins, and now our body's becoming more and more inflamed. It's affecting blood flow. And then also the fructose, the extra fructose, we tend to have fructose malabsorption, meaning the gut bacteria loves to feed on fructose. So if we have a lot of bad bacteria, we're eating a bad diet, a lot of that bacteria is going to gobble up that extra fructose and create more dysbiosis and create more malabsorption of various nutrients, and they even spit out various toxins like lithocolic acid and endotoxin, etc. So you can see all of the things that happen, right? We're consuming too much fructose today. Average is 80 grams. And again, just to give you a heads up, one handful of blueberries is about 10 grams or 12 grams of fructose. So the recommendations are is 15 on the low side, 16 on the low side, to 24 on the high side. So if you're consuming fructose on the higher end, you may not even be able to consume more than 1 to 2 handfuls of blueberries a day if you're insulin resistant. Again, I typically work with patients, and if they have any sign of metabolic syndrome, and all metabolic syndrome is, right? MS, metabolic syndrome for short, is nothing more than all of these symptoms. We have a high amount of lipogenesis, a high amount of fat. Why? Because that fructose is getting converted by the liver. We're seeing insulin resistance. Why are we seeing that? Right? We're seeing that because of the fact that our liver is becoming more insulin numb to it, so our body needs more insulin. So we need more insulin. And then we also see dysglycemia, meaning our blood sugar's off, because if our insulin's off, our blood sugar naturally has to be off. We're seeing higher blood pressure. Why higher blood pressure? This is an awesome one. Is one of the other byproducts of this whole metabolism here is uric acid. And uric acid can be inflammatory. And one of the things uric acid does, it decreases endothelial nitrates, or endothelial NO2. That's the molecule that vasodilates the blood vessels. Endothelial nitrate. And basically NO2 is your natural vasodilator. And this is very important because if we decrease our vasodilator, what we're doing is we're naturally constricting the blood vessels. So we're increasing uric acid, and that's partly what's driving our high blood pressure. Higher uric acid, higher blood pressure. And then with the obesity, because our insulin's off and our blood sugar's off, and now our blood pressure is going to start going higher, now we're going to start having more obesity because insulin is our primary fat storage hormone. So you can see this really vicious cascade in here, and a lot of people that have these issues have digestive issues, maybe even SIBO, because they're feeding all this bad bacteria. They have all kinds of dysglycemia, insulin issues, and they're overweight. And you can see here, it's just a constant evolution of poor diets over the years that's driving this whole issue. So again, this is Dr. J here. Lots of information in this video. If you want more information, click on screen or click below to subscribe to get more cutting edge info in your feed. And again, if you feel like this is an issue happening in your health or life, click on screen and reach out to me so you can get some help to start making a change. Again, this is Dr. J signing off. Have a great day.